皆さん、お稽古お疲れ様です and welcome back to Beyond the Dojo. So guys, before I get into today's main topic, I have a question for you. I think anyone, regardless of who it is, when we are living our everyday lives, we always have some form of up and downs, right? I think there's always waves to lives. You can't always be super positive. Sorry, my computer just turned on. You can't always be everything be going well, and then everything from there. Yeah, everything can't go just worse and worse. At some point, it goes up and then it goes down. I think life has, its ups and downs. And what I want to ask you today is that when you feel like you are in rather downside, do you have any tricks that you personally have to overcome it? Yeah. I mean, I'm already 30. I'm already past 30. I'm 31, 32 this year. I have, of course, experienced my fair amount of up and downs in my life. And of course, I do have my own methods, of course, to be able to overcome my downs when it comes. But I'm kind of in my down right now. I can't, of course, tell you everything about what's going on in my life and everything. But we all have our downs, right? Yeah. And I do have several methods, but just a topic for us to discuss in the comments and such. I read every single comment, by the way, on Beyond the Dojo. So it would be great if you can let me know if you have something specific that you do, or any experiences that you have. Yeah, I know that in the end, the only thing that can solve these downs in life is time. To be honest, we have to wait, for it to pass. But when you're in the midst of it, it's tough, isn't it? I mean, we all know, but. Yes, it'd be great if you can share what you do, or how you think about it, how you face these things, or if you do anything specific, it'd be great if you can let me know. Okay. Now, with that said, guys, I'm very happy to let you know that the next training, there's actually going to be someone coming to the dojo, hoping to join the Kyoto dojo. I'm so happy if this person, I haven't met him yet. If he actually joins the dojo, he will be the 13th member, and we already have the 14th member planned to join us next July, so in about a month. So I'm very excited that the Kyoto dojo is growing. There's actually going to be 4 visitors on Tuesday. And, the Kyoto Dojo, because I make, content and stuff like that, there's quite a lot of one-time visitors, if that makes sense. People who are, for example, just traveling Japan and they've been seeing my content and they're interested. So they visit the Kyoto Dojo and take part in training just once or twice or stuff like that, And in total, including the gentleman who is hoping to officially join the dojo, there's going to be 4 people who are going to be coming. So including the regular members of the Kyoto dojo, we might have more than 10 people taking part in the training that day. So it's going to be I can't believe that since the time I started the Kyoto dojo, it officially hasn't been half a year yet. And we already had that many people, gathering together, training together, and all enjoying Asayama Ichiden-ryu. I'm very honored and grateful that, the community is growing. I really hope that I can try my best to give back to Seki Sensei as much as possible. Okay. Now, with that said, guys, another very important teaching from Seki Sensei that I want to share with you today, and I really am looking forward to, I'm looking for the right timing to share this knowledge with the members of the Kyoto Dojo too. But to give you the conclusion first, okay? When you practice a kata or any technique in Budo, Seki Sensei has always taught us that the effect is the priority. The effect. In Japanese, we call that koka, which means effect. Okay? So what that means is, nowadays, even in Japan too, in the world of, like, for example, iai and such, the art of katana drawing, there is this, what should I say, general idea nowadays. It's considered kind of common sense to do the forms beautifully, and correctly, and that's kind of like the priority, or that's kind of like the purpose of doing it, if that makes sense. And Seki Sensei calls such techniques ojuken Budo, which means testing Budo. Yeah, Budo that you train because you want to pass the test. Okay? The top priority of training that technique is doing the movements correctly and accurately. Seki Sensei always says, accuracy and EI are completely different things, two completely different things. Accurate EI does not exist. Yeah, that is a complete contradiction. It does not go together. It's like oil and water, we say in Japanese, It cannot mix, And what this means is, I think I can use, again, the metaphor of maybe, for example, it could be anything, to be honest, but let me use tea ceremony. Tea ceremony, just like I was talking about in the last episode, we have our katas, okay? We have a certain time when we talk, certain times when we don't talk, when we ask this question, when we do this procedure, when we do this part of the ceremony and stuff like that. It's all, to be honest, it's fixed, yeah. But what's happening inside has to be, the priority is not to follow the rules, though, just like my sensei has taught me, right? The moment you show that you're following a kata, that everything is ruined. Doesn't that sound a little bit strange, though? You're taught and practice, in your practice, these forms, these katas, these exercises, drills, but you are also taught that copying that, just doing exactly what you're taught is ruining everything. That's the same as what Seki Sensei is saying about testing Budo, right? What he has taught us, like I told you in the beginning, the conclusion is the effectiveness of the technique is the priority, not correctness or accuracy. Okay? So let's take, for example, in tea ceremony, if, for example, you find while you're doing the procedures, at the side of your eye, you see that one of your guests might not be feeling so well. Maybe their legs are numb because you have to sit in seiza for a very long time during tea ceremonies, right? Maybe their legs are numb. Maybe not. They're starting to get a little bit tired. Yeah. Then my tea sensei would say, speed up your temai. Temai means the procedures of tea ceremony. She would tell us, speed it up. You're doing the top priority of tea ceremony 2 is not correctness. Okay, the top priority of tea ceremony is hospitality and care and love toward your guests. That's what we're trying to learn through the katas. Okay, we need katas, drills, forms for us to first of all be able to go into the world of tea ceremony. But once you enter, the priority is not following the rules. It's about how you express your care and love to your guests. Okay? So, if you do the tea procedures on your own when you're training, maybe if you're training with your sensei, you might do it a little bit slower. Yeah, right? You might be doing it correctly and slower, but if you actually are in a situation where you're holding a tea ceremony and you find someone who is not feeling so well, then you should speed it up and try to finish everything as soon as possible. Do you get what I mean? So that's the same for iai techniques, Budo techniques as well. Maybe when you do a kata, especially with a partner, in Asayama Ichiden-ryu, every technique has to be done with a partner to say that you can do that. You can do that technique. The Asayama Ichiden does not believe in one single person iai, solo iai. That's a concept that does not exist in our style. It's only for personal practice, right? So when you, for example, do a technique, it might not exactly be the way that we were taught. Maybe we needed to open our body more. Maybe we should have done more sabiki. Maybe our right hand should have been softer. Things like that happen, right? Yeah, if you want to do everything correctly. But if you were able to complete that kata, if you were able to do it at the right rhythm, yeah, if you're able to catch that correct moment to attack and draw the katana, then that technique had the effect of what you were trying to learn from that kata. Does this make sense? Yeah. So you're inside your mind when you're training Budo techniques. If you have inside your head the priority as doing it correctly, doing exactly what my sensei has taught me, then you're absolutely training in the wrong direction, Seki Sensei always teaches us. Okay? It's really important that you always remember and you train, especially when you train on your own, it's really important that you try to follow everything as much as possible. Okay? But in the end, that's not the priority. The priority is the effect to defeat the opponent. Yeah, the opponent does a certain type of attack and you use a certain type of technique and you defeat them. Okay? You winning, they are defeated is the priority, which is the effect of the kata. Okay? So Seki Sensei always tells us, iai cannot be done with your head. Okay? It shouldn't be done with your head. It needs to be done with your mind, with your heart. Okay? So if you are thinking about anything, let's say, okay, my right hand needs to be here, my waist needs to be lower, stuff like that, then that's not a technique yet. You're just copying an exercise, and you can't call that a waza, we say in Japanese. It's not a technique. So I think that's a really important concept to understand for all trainees, and also, still learning instructors like me, because when you are an instructor and you start teaching and explaining to your students or to your members, you would want to find the points that they're not doing correctly, point those things out, and you want them to fix them, right? But if you do that too much, then the members, your students, will eventually start to think that if you do it correctly, if you do everything exactly the way you are taught, then you won't be pointed out anything anymore, and that becomes their priority, right? What they think Budo is about. Yeah. So it's really difficult, this balance between what you prioritize. I probably will be struggling with this for a long time from now on, because as I'm just a very new instructor, I don't even want to call myself an instructor, to be honest. I always tell my members that please call me a senpai and not a sensei, right? Senpai means just a senior, and sensei means that you're an instructor or you're a person that can lead someone, right? But I do not feel that I'm worthy of it being called a sensei yet, so I always have members call me a senpai. But yeah, I think it's something that I need to have in mind too. The reason why I'm, having an episode to talk to you guys about this is because I really think that this is important, and people like me especially, who is a branch leader, needs to keep this in mind. Yeah. In the end, the Seki Sensei always says, the best EI technique is where you, the opponent, and also you didn't know what happened. Okay? Because again, when an EI situation happens, it's a sudden situation, right? EI means to always be in the moment and react immediately. Okay? 常にいて急に合わす. Always be in the moment and react immediately is what EI stands for. So it's a situation where you are spending your everyday life walking down the street, sitting inside a house or a castle, or in the past, stuff like that, and you suddenly get attacked by multiple opponents from the left, from the right, from the back, for example. You're standing, the opponent runs towards you. You're sitting, the opponent runs towards you. The opponent is sitting also in front of you and they attack you. Various situations where you could suddenly get attacked at any time, right? Yeah. So do you have time to think in such a situation? The answer is absolutely no. Right. Of course, maybe the samurais their mindsets were a little bit more, in a way, battle ready than us, because we living now, the world is much more peaceful compared to the time when there were no, the stuff that we have now, like cameras or stuff like that. It was probably much more dangerous in the past, right? So they probably had more a mindset of I could get attacked anytime, but still. You can't always be super, super cautious, right, all the time. Yeah. So that's why Seki Sensei says a good EI technique is where the opponent and both people there in that situation where they fought didn't know what happened, but you are not hurt and they are defeated, is the perfect EI technique. And again, such a technique cannot be, brought out with your head again. It has to be done with your mind. Okay? Seki Sensei always says, kimochi is the Japanese word. He always says kimochi is mind, heart, yeah, feelings, okay, stuff like that. Yeah. So he always teaches us that. And I think that's really important that we always keep that in mind. That the effectiveness of the technique is important. Okay? Of course, we always seek to do it correctly, obviously. Okay? This is the point we must not misunderstand. We gotta do it correctly. We can't just do it randomly. Yeah. We have to do it correctly. Yeah. But the correctness is not where we're trying to aim toward. That's just a point that we pass through. Yeah. Doing it correctly is the starting point of your training. Not making any mistakes when you do a kata is the point where you stand to start running. That's not the goal. That's not the goal tape there. That's the starting line. And from there, being able to do that technique without using your head at all is true training. Yeah. And when you actually do these techniques as a true technique, maybe some parts of the technique might be a little bit relaxed, maybe a little bit broken, but if it has the effect the kata is trying to teach us, then that is correct. Back to the tea ceremony example, right? You might not be able to do the procedures, the tea procedures that your sensei has taught you. Might be doing a little bit faster, might be doing a little bit slower, for example. But if the guests who are there are happy, then that's the goal. That's the goal of tea ceremony, right? So I think that's really similar. Guys, do you have any other examples? I brought out the example of tea ceremony because that's what I put a lot of effort into right now, and that's the first thing that came into my mind. But I'm sure most of you listening to this have not trained in tea ceremonies. I think the example of tea ceremony is a bit difficult. So if you guys have any other ways of expressing or explaining this, it'd be great if you can let me know in the comments. Okay. All right then, guys, thank you so much. I wanted to share this really important teaching from Seki Sensei with you guys today. All right, then, again, like as always, my online lesson is about to start in about 5 minutes, so I'll get going then. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. I'll see you in the next episode. お疲れ様です。